Hi guys, and welcome to my DUNU Talos review. I apologize for having taken so long, but there's been so many things going on lately, and I just wanted to take my time in listening to the Talos properly before I actually opened my mouth and started giving opinions and commenting about it. Anyway, box, very much the usual DUNU, let's say modus operandis, way of doing things. Okay, um, open up. Inside, it brings an ample array of tips, a whole bunch of them. In particular, the ones that are the tips that stand out are these new ones that still haven't been named, but these tips, and which are the ones that actually I'm using on the Talo as well. These ones have this peculiar shape or detail that they are completely cylindrical, as you can see, and excuse me, my apologies. And then the truth is they work really well, not only on the Talos, but I've actually tried it as well on a few other IEMs, and I was very impressed. So I'll definitely be buying a few of those once they are made available. The IEMs came over there, obviously, and the cable is over here, which is a very nice cable from DUNU. The usual that usually DUNU gives with their cable, with their IEMs. It's always a good quality cable. They never skimp on that aspect. Although in this particular case, I'm actually using a different cable, an XINHS, because it's a 4.4, and I wanted something balanced to really be able to extract the most out of the Talos. Anyway, that's the packaging, decent enough. I'll show you the case that it brings with in a second, although I'm sure that you've probably already seen it. Okay, the case is this, again, very much the usual DUNU thing that they offer. Nice solid case, very nice, very nice. As for the Talos itself, well, it's got this unusual cylindrical shape, but contrary to what might be your initial impression that it will fit funny or something of the sort, no, it fits beautifully in my ears. Absolutely no complaints. Be it with these new tips that they have or any other tips I found absolutely no complaints in regards to the fit. It has this switch that you can see here, okay, and that switch is for what? That switch is to add onto the sound reproduction, the two BAs that it has. And honestly, and this is to get it out of the way straight away, I wish DUNU hadn't gone down that road of adding the BAs, because the BAs just came and spoiled the whole thing, and they could have saved on the BAs, and instead of selling it at around $200, which is what they're selling it for, they could have sold it at around 150, and at the 150 it would have probably made a killing, and would have been way more well accepted and less subjected to some criticisms. As I was saying, this is an XINHS cable that I'm using, and yeah, that's basically in a nutshell that's what it is. On to what we want to know, and which is the sound, and how does it compare to some of the other planars available. I didn't go all out like I've done before and bring out the whole 9 yards in terms of all the planars and compare them. Simple. The signature of the Talos is more of a neutralish, bright signature. Okay, and so I thought it would make sense to compare it with the two other IEMs which have that kind of a signature, which is the 700 Sol Notes Dioko and the 10 Hi-Fi P1 Max, and then obviously compare it then to probably one of the best ones, which is the Wuzetian. Okay, and then finally, and this is going to be a little bit maybe a subject to some controversy, compare it to the KZ PR1 Hi-Fi. Okay, I thought it made sense to compare it as well to the Hi-Fi. Anyway, in a nutshell, as I said, the Talos has got a neutralish signature with some emphasis on the upper frequency. So neutralish bright, I think, would be probably the best way to describe it. It certainly is, graphically at least, brighter than the P1 and than the Dioko, although it then graphs very different to be it the PR1 or the Wuzetian. In terms of above 1K, the similarity between the Talos and the Dioko is very evident, and I think it's down to the fact that they are using the same 14.6mm driver. So basically the 14.6mm driver used here and here is the same driver. Much the same situation that happens with, for example, the 14.5mm driver that's used in the Wuzetian is the same 14.5mm driver used in the Muse Hi-Fi and used in the TRN Kirin, and then the 14.2mm driver, which is used on the P1, that is used on the Timeless, that is used in the, well, the LED Show is a 14.8, and physically, although they look identical, I don't know if there is perhaps any difference in the size of the actual diaphragm. But I'm going to include the LED Show as well in that group of the 14.2. And these groups, they kind of, as I mentioned in the previous review of mine, they kind of have different characteristics to their drivers. It's actually quite interesting when you actually look at it in a little bit more detail. But anyway, on to what matters here. The only real true outlier in terms of this whole thing is the KZ, which is the 13.2, totally in-house driver, and apparently, or well, according to them, the surface area of the diaphragm here is basically the same surface areas of the other. So although physically the size of it is smaller, the surface area of the diaphragm, which radiates sound, is the same. So, well, I guess kudos to them. That's well done to them. They've been able to make a smaller package with the same radiating area as the other ones. Talking about the sound of the Talos, it's got a nice clean bass reproduction. It's by no means the bass that you find, for example, on the Wuzetian. Excuse me. And even when I compare the bass of it to the bass of the P1 Max, which is also kind of neutralish in it, well, very flat in its signature, probably the flattest of these three, and the more neutral of these three. It's actually funny that the bass here has got a little bit more, comes across with a little bit more guts, maybe because then the rest of the frequencies are not as pronounced as maybe over there, and so you get to notice the bass more. But bass is very nicely done. It's clean, it's detailed, it's quite resolving. If anything, it just lacks a little bit more of guts in one or two songs that I like listening to, okay? As compared to the bass of the Dioko, and when you actually graph the two, you see that, like I said, they are almost picture perfect copies of each other. Somehow, some reason, and I would assume maybe the shape of the shell, I don't know, there's just something there that just makes the bass on the Talos come across just a little bit more, with more body. So the thinness and kind of the lack of some energy that the bass on the Dioko has, which is basically really the only flaw that the Dioko has, because I mean, come on, let's face it, the Dioko is a very nicely tuned IEM. It's got a signature which belongs to a person that we all know, Clinical, and it's been tuned according to his parameters, and I'm sure it will please many people. Personally, myself, I like a little bit more oomph in the lower frequencies, and although I can understand his signature and I can see where he's coming from and what are the benefits of such a signature, just a little bit more guts would be nice, and that's exactly what you get in the Talos. You get in essence, you get basically the same ability to be detailed and resolving and super, super technical as you get on the Dioko, but with that little extra bass which just confers the rest of the frequency range a more a more realistic, a more complete timbre and tonality, and that's, I think, the best way I can describe the Talos. The Talos is a Dioko that, because the bass has been slightly worked in a different manner, which visibly when you look at the graph you can't really see, but you can hear it. It's noticeable audibly. It just gives takes away that thinness that the Dioko has and gives it more body. So in my opinion, my particular taste of music, my ears, it just sounds overall as a better IEM. Okay. mids, they have, as in the Yoko, an early, well, they've got an early Pina gain. Well, not early Pina gain, but the peak is just over 2K, which again might or could seem problematic and make things sound a little bit more forward. But when you actually listen to it, and at least with the music that I listen to, I really have no complaints about it. I mean, the mids in the Talos, I think, are probably its its main characteristic, the way that it just brings forward the mids, and then it's complemented by the bass and the highs. The highs are clean, detailed, plenty extension, no lack of extension there. In terms of technicalities, be it soundstage, imaging, detail retrieval, micro and macro detailing, again, I found it very satisfying. It doesn't have the same sense of overall stage as you found, or as you find, for example, in something like the Timeless, which has got this very big stage, or even the soundstage of the Wuzetian. But it's got a decent enough soundstage. Imaging is again pretty decent. Detail retrieval pretty decent, and the tonality, like I said earlier, is in my opinion very correct. So in essence, I would say that, for example, when I compare it to the Wuzetian, and I'll start here with the Wuzetian is a more complete or more satisfying IEM to me in terms of its bass and its highs. It's very well done in the bass. I mean, it's probably one of the best ones in terms of the bass. Previously the S12 and the Hook X were known for having amazing bass, but this just came and took it to a different level. Again, it's not that graphically you see major differences, you don't, but just sonically when you hear it, it just sounds more satisfying. So the bass here is superior to the bass in the Talos in quantity, in quality, everything. And the highs, the way they're done, the highs in the Wuzetian, they sound more realistic. You get a sense of a bit of, when comparing these two, of the highs, they being a little bit forced. They're amazing. Please keep in mind, the highs, they are really good. But when you compare it with the Wuzetian, it just sounds like the highs in the Wuzetian are natural. It's what it is. It's what's there, and that there kind of seems to force a little bit. Okay, make it, and then obviously, depending on what source you use, you will pick up on that slightly more or slightly less. If you, for example, using it with a TK2, you pick up on it more. But if you using it with a 4493, like a UA3, a Shannon UA3, or you're using it with for example, the AP90 from J. Kelly, you don't notice it as much. I mean, even with the latest AP98 with this one here, which is using the CS43198, you also don't notice it as much. They sound more equal there. Where then the Wuzetian loses out to the Talos, in my opinion, is in the mids, and how the mids are able to just be a little bit more resolving. The mids on the Talos are really its main, its forte. Really, really good. Vocals, instruments, everything is super detailed, super realistic. Guitar plucks, pianos, everything. I really have nothing to say with regards to that. As compared to the Dioko, and as I mentioned before, they are very similar, but due to the fact that it's got more bass fullness, it then just completely overpowers the Dioko, because everything that they do well in the mids and in the highs, which are very similar, mind you, it's better complemented with this extra bass that it got, that the Talos has got, so it just makes it sound, this just continues sounding thin. It's I don't want to seem like I'm saying I don't like it. No, I like it. I can understand it, and if I talked about it favorably before, it's because it is a good IEM, and there will be plenty of people that like it. It just lacks a little bit more guts. That's it, and that does everything that does, and it's got guts, so it's better than that. Period. As compared to the P1 Max, where you do notice that the Talos is perhaps superior to it is superior to the P1 Max, is in the mids again. The mids are very, very good. You really do notice that there is more detail in the mids here than there is on the P1 Max. Although, having said that, And this is a characteristic of the P1 Max in particular. It needs power. So when you really crank it up, you then notice that that advantage that at lower volumes the Talos has goes away. Obviously, you can't be listening to music or full blast all the time. So under normal music listening levels, yes, the Talos will have better mids. Bass and highs, I'm gonna give it bass. I'm gonna give it to the tin, because much like this has got just that little extra to compensate over that there, and to make it beat the Dioko. This is the same situation. It's just got that little extra bass energy that just edges out again the Talos, and it complements the rest of the signature very well. In terms of highs, it's basically very, very equal. I would say the highs here are just slightly more polished up again. And finally, compared with the PR1, you know, and this obviously, of course, has to do with you as an individual, how your ears are, and how you are able to get the A, B, C, D, I, M playing in your ears, and what music you like listening to and everything. But I was actually quite impressed, because the PR1 has been talked about by in not in such a positive way. Oh, it's got too much energy up top and this and that. Well, as I mentioned when I did my review of the PR1, if you use the foam tips, and I've got these comply copies on there, if you use the foam tips, what it brings down the energy, the amount that it brings down the energy above 8K is sufficient to just balance everything out so nicely. And even though there's definitely more bass here than there is there on the Talos, the fact that a $65 IEM is able to keep up very well, and a lot of the times with a $200 IEM, tells me once again that this here is a winner. And honestly, if you do not have the money, if you cannot afford more than what the PR1 costs, do not hesitate on getting it, because you will not be disappointed. The PR1 is an absolute beast of a planar IM. It plays really well. That's all I'm going to say. I'm going to let people actually go out and make an effort to try it out. Go out, make an effort to try it out, put on the right tips, and you will not be disappointed. This thing is an absolute beast. That's my opinion. Yes, ultimately the DUNU does come out on top in terms of the resolution and in terms of the whole balance of the mids and the highs as compared to here, but it's not by much. Not by much. No, not by much. And the bass here is also a little bit overpowering. So in terms of an overall, let's say, high fidelity reproduction, it will maybe be a little bit colored by audiophile standards. But like I said, I was very surprised how it was actually able to keep up with the Talos, and costing 3 times less, basically. And yeah, guys, that's basically it. I mean, my overall impression of the Talos is a favorable one. Like I said, I wish they hadn't done the BAs, because that just can increase the price for no reason. Among the IEMs which have a more, let's say, neutral tuning, yes, it is a rec of mine if that's what you're looking for. The Dioko obviously still stands as a rec because of its price, $99. But in terms of the neutral ones, the one that I personally still feel is the one that comes out on top, because of the way that it sounds and because of the price. I mean, like I mentioned before already, I believe this can be bought from Linsol right now for $99, and this has nothing to do with the 11/11 sales. This can be bought for $99. For the $99, which is half the price of that, trust me when I say that is not twice the IEM. That is not an IEM that for twice the price absolutely destroys the P1. No, it doesn't. The quality of the shell and how it looks, it's all debatable, okay? But the P1 Max, in terms of its overall performance, is a beast of an IEM. Beast. Really, really good. Wuzetian needs no extra rec or nothing from me, okay? And the PR1, sorry, again, the price and the performance that it offers make it an obvious choice. It's as simple as that. I mean, all of them have, you know, their good points and their lesser good points. The Talos' main problem, the way I look at it, being very blunt and looking at, like, you know, some price, and that could have been something that could have easily been you know, contoured and resolved. So yeah, that's it, guys. As always, like and subscribe. Any questions, you know, please feel free to ask. I'll do the graphs now, just showing you quickly how everything stacks up against each other. And yeah, we'll take it from there afterwards. Okay, you have a nice one. Take care. Bye-bye. Hi, guys, and welcome now to the graph section for the DUNU Talos. And this is the DUNU Talos without the BAs. I'm not even going to show you with the BAs because it's honestly, it's such a disappointment. When you have an IEM that is capable of having this amount of energy, you know, in the hyper frequencies, and why would you go and spoil it, honestly? Anyway, that's the Talos. As you can see, nice, very smooth bass into the mid bass, into the mids, very smooth, peaks at around 2K as I mentioned, and then kind of maintains itself on a downwardish slope. Okay, this one that I put up now is the Dioko, and you know, graphically, when you see these two, you can see that there's a lot of similarities. You would even perhaps go as far as saying, oh, this is the same driver, there's some driver variance from one. But the bass, it just sounds different on the Talos. I just cannot understand why. It's not me being picky. I actually had my wife listen to this as well, and it just sounds different. Okay, and then although you see here that the Yoko as well manifesting itself as having more energy up top, you know, past 10K, it's not what you actually hear. It's basically the same. And as you can see again, once more, the similarities in the mids and so on, it's there for everyone to see. The other neutralish IEM is the P1 Max. As you can see here, the P1 Max, I just put it up. And yes, you do notice that this little bit of bump that it has in mid bass is perceived when you listen to it. And overall the bass actually sounds a little bit more fuller because there isn't so much of a difference. While, let me put this to you let me try and explain this to you in a different manner. While the DUNU Talos has everything within a window of 79 to 91, about 12 dBs, everything is there. The tin maintains everything within a window of 79 to 86, so about 7 dBs, everything stays within that window. So the perception of the bass being fuller is noticeable because you haven't got this much energy up top. But when you look at this up top, on one or the other, the Talos and the P1, you actually see that they kind of follow each other. I mean, it's just on a lower level, but they're very there. There's a lot of energy up top as well on the P1, and you notice that when you hear the P1, and like I said, you need to give it power. You do see that it's a very capable IEM, and I'm actually surprised not more people just enjoy this particular planar. I don't know. It's one of those things. That's that. The next one is where we go? There we go. Next one is the Tangzu, the Wuzetian, and yeah, I mean, you can see the bass is a big difference. Although if you actually look up, you know, above 1K, there's not much difference. You know, there isn't really that amount of difference. Yes, there's more energy here in this area of 3, 4, 5K. There's a little bit more energy here on the Wuzetian as compared to the Talos. But the treble, well, the brilliance area is basically the same. The treble is very much, the gain as well, everything is very much. It's just the amount of sub bass and mid bass energy in one compared to the other. Okay, and just the overall balance between the two extremes is different as compared to the Talos. I just like the way that it's done in the Wuzetian. And then finally, the KZ, which if I just quickly put here the Wuzetian, you will see, look at how similar these two are. It is just absolutely crazy. Same amount of bass, and the bass in hi-fi is really good. It's a quality bass, really, trust me. And then a little bit more energy here, 2, 3K, again at 5 to 7, and past 10K, yes, a lot more energy. But you know, honestly, non-offensive. The PR1 plays genuinely well. It really does. And when I take it, for example, and now I'm going to put the Talos. When you put the Talos, you have the same situation as we had with the Rosetta in terms of the base energy or base quantity. And then, yes, they follow each other, but a little bit more energy on. But when you listen to it, when you hear it, you do not notice this difference here. You notice, yes, this difference. You notice that there's a bit more up top difference between the PR1 and the Talos, but not again a dramatic difference. This, yeah, you don't notice it, honestly, and yes, of course, you do notice there's more bass on the one and the other. And all of this to say what? To say that the PR1 is a good IM. It really is a genuinely good IM. Anyway, guys, that's the DUNU Talos for you. As I said, if you're looking for a more neutralish signature between the Dioko and the PR1, the P1 Max, it's a viable option. I prefer it over the Dioko, honestly. I really do. And yeah, in my overall recs of planar IEMs now, definitely will have it now as an option for someone that wants more of a neutralish signature. Its only real obstacle is the price, which I mean, $200 is a little bit steep, but anyway, it is what it is. Guys, as always, like and subscribe. Any questions, please feel free to ask. And as I said in my previous video, check out HIFIGO, check out Linsol. They're going to be having some seriously good deals. Check out Angel Ears on AliExpress. Check out Yaya Tiger, and check out Woo Easy as well on AliExpress. All of them are going to have some crazy deals. That's all I can tell you. All right. Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.